So this is video 3 in the 100 video challenge. I've got the van back. It's been updated by Renogy down in Birmingham. The guys there did a superb job. Can't recommend them highly enough. Real neat package, and it can I'll show you the dial later on. So how did my photography start? 1978. When we were 15 and 16 at school, we used to go and get part-time jobs on a morning. Mine was on a market, lugging rolls of linoleum across, putting onto from the van onto the stall, and then staying there for the day. Then we'd load up on the morning from school and then cycle back from the market back to school to do a day's school. And then after school, we'd get on our bikes and we'd go back to the market and help load the van again. This was fantastic. You could earn money for what you wanted because it was not given to you on a plate. If you wanted something, you had to work for it. So that we did. And then one day, my mate says, someone needs a cleaning job. It's in a big house with a warehouse top, so to speak. So one day my mate said, there's a job if you wanted it, and it's just cleaning up after a photographer and the big top of like a building warehouse. He's going to have a look and see. It's good money. He just wants it someone clean when he brings the models in. So I applied for the job. I went down, had a look. And as soon as I walked through the door into this space, it was unbelievable. As any artist will tell you, it's all about the light. It was like at the top of a warehouse, and the space was just phenomenal with the light. So I walked through the door, and he says, yeah, we did the introductions. All I want you to do is clean, make sure it's neat and tidy, go for a coffee run, go for the sandwich run with the clients, etc. So yeah, there I did. So on a morning, I used to go, it was like a Friday. We used to go Friday morning. I used to go into the room. I used to tidy up, make sure everything was how we needed it. The space was just unbelievable. There was a huge skylight, but also the windows at the side. And as the sun came through, it was just phenomenal light that came through. And you can see why he wanted it. Later on, I realised that this guy had moved down from London after seeing a picture of this place for sale or rent. He had to come down and see it. And when he saw it, he rented it, yeah, to do all his work. It was fantastic. So that was a Friday. He called me one day and says, do you want some extra work on a weekend? So I says, yes, fine. I was saving up for my moped. Oh, every money was good money. So I used to go on a Saturday, and that's when he had like teaching. So he had these pupils come in. He'd teach them photography. I just cleaned up, usual coffee, sandwich run, no problem at all. And it was during one of these sessions that he was teaching light, but extra light, so from a light source apart from natural light. And he put this big reflector on the model that was sat probably 8 to 10 feet in front of us, and there was like 5 students there, and they were all watching him with all these fancy cameras, etc. And he put the light on, and he showed them how to shoot the model, and then he says, right, shoot away. And I was stood at the back watching all these, and I wasn't really into photography. My artwork was pencil and paint at school. That's what I wanted to do at school. I wanted to go to art school and study art. So I was there watching them, and I noticed that this group of people just didn't move. They stayed in the central place, just clicking away like he showed them. So I started to wander around out of camera view of shot. And so I started to walk around out of camera shot. And I could see how this light, when it landed on the model, it differed. And this really was a eureka moment for me with light. It was just phenomenal. I'd never noticed it before. Well, not in photography sense anyway. So I was stood at the side and I was looking at the model, and she was moving around with her head. But as she moved around with the long hair and flowed it, you could see how the light fell through her hair and just lit certain parts of her face. And I was just stood watching her. And all of a sudden, she gazed right at me. And I didn't know where to put myself. Oh, God, I'm in trouble here. So as I looked across at the photographer, he was watching me as well. So then I realised, I'm going to lose this job now. So I walked back, didn't do anything else apart from kept clean and tidy the workshop and go for the coffee and sandwich runs, of course. And then I was ready for his don't bother coming back. But it was after that everyone had gone. I was just about to go, trying to sneak out as you do. And he called me over. And he asked me why I did what I did. And so I explained to him that I'd studied and paint at school and college. but not really photography. And I couldn't understand why this group of students who wanted to do photography just didn't move. They were just straight in front. The light was behind them or just to one side, and they were shooting this model. And the cameras they had were, blimey, they were medium format, they were really new cameras, really expensive. But he asked why I'd moved to one side, and I explained to him that I couldn't understand why the students didn't move around to try and capture the light through either a hair on a close-up face shot, or just longer, and how it flowed. And if she moved quick, they could capture the hair and light as she spun her head round. And this fascinated me. And he couldn't understand why this snotty little 16-year-old was doing something that he wanted his students to do. And as time went on, I spent more and more time at his workshops, especially on a weekend with the students, and I took everything in. He never took photography with me, but I just took it in like a sponge. It was at that eureka point that I knew I wanted to do photography. So one day he came to me and he says, right, I've got a model in tomorrow, which would be the Sunday. I'm going to do some shooting. If you want to come in and spend the day, and we'll chat about things. And that was it. And I spent the whole of the Sunday with him. I got there early. I didn't have a camera as such because I didn't know one camera from another. Like nowadays, you always look on YouTube videos and other sources and think, oh, that must be brilliant. It's got 1,000 megapixels in it. And it does this and it does that. So I went in on the Sunday, I had no camera, and he was there with his setup. And he talked me through the shoot from start to finish. How he liked the model, how she was supposed to sit or stand, the backdrop, whether it was natural light, because she could move around this space and just follow the light as it moved across from the sun. He very rarely used an additional source of light. It was all natural. And it was just unbelievable. And then when we got about cameras, he explained if I had a camera, and I said no. I said I didn't really want what everyone was using, and at that point it was the Olympus OM system. I think it was the 10. Everybody wanted one. Mr. Bailey was on telly plugging this camera. It was the best of the best. But I never really got on with the Olympus. My friend got an Olympus and I held it and I thought, it just doesn't feel right. So I looked around and I bought a Yashica FXD. And this is the very camera that I bought. This is my first camera. I've kept it. It's absolutely fabulous. It was the FXD. Beautiful camera. Film, of course. And it came with a lens. And the lens was a Yashica, made in Japan. And it's a 50mm f2 stop. And this one's got the little adapter on because I have various cameras and I can use all the adapters to put these lenses on. So that was the kit I bought, just because it felt right. There was nothing fancy or anything about it. It was just a basic 35 film camera, but it was lovely. It had just been introduced into this market, and it cost me £129 in 1978. And then I worked with that. So I used to take that to the workshops and explained everything to me, and I took some shots. But the lessons learned were invaluable about the light, how to set up the shoot, what to look for, what not to do, but what's the story behind the shoot to get the model on side, not treat her like just, how can you explain it? Just treat her like a dummy. Don't treat people like that. Treat them with respect, talk to them, tell them what you want to achieve with the shoot. Always show the model the shots. If they don't like them, delete them. But that's one thing you'll find with models. It's very rare you'll find a model who actually loves themselves when they look at the pictures. He always told me that always use the camera to start with. Try it out. If it doesn't feel right, then it's probably not for you. And I still use that today. My camera systems from the Yashica there, I went on to, believe it or not, this is a Lumix G1. This is the first bridge camera that was introduced, Panasonic. Fantastic Panasonic sensor. It's not the Sony sensor. And I still use this today. This cost me 50 quid. And it's fantastic. The sensor on the black and whites is beautiful. And then I went on to, of course, which I still use today, which is the Nikon, the D700. Phenomenal. Nothing to touch it on the market, I believe, at the moment. It's not all about the pixels. And I think this is only a 12 megapixel camera. and I've got the D810 because they feel right for me. I've tried shooting the majority of cameras out there, from Leica, Mamiya, medium format, Fujifilm, and I still come back to the Nikon because that's what I'm happy with. It was only after we'd gone back to London and I looked into who he was that he actually studied under a guy called John French. Now, John French in the 60s and 70s was the photographer in London to go for our fashion photography. Everybody wanted to work for John French, and there was this guy who I was cleaning floors for who actually studied under him. Fashion photographer, John French. Unbelievable. And when you look at some of the pictures of John French in his workshop with other students, you can see there David Bailey. He stands out, but the majority of others who wanted to work for John French, there he was teaching me about photography. And I've kept that all the time. I'm not a pixel popper. I don't have a Sony. No, I'm sorry, I have one Sony. It's an NEX5N Alpha. It's the same size sensor as the big A's, but it's converted to total ultraviolet and infrared. It's the whole spectrum converted camera. I do have the filters for that, and that's my camera for shooting infrared. The sensor's good. It's a full frame sensor in a tiny camera. I shoot with Russian glass with adapters. Most of my adapters, all my lenses, which I probably have about 10, if that, convert to all the cameras that I have, and I can shoot various formats with them, whether it's from the D810, the 700, the G1, or my Sony Nexus. The main things was, don't go to college, which I thought was strange when he says, if you want to study photography, don't go to college. You need to be out there taking pictures, understanding how things work, getting used to the negativity of everyone. People saying no to you, not following the photography rules. He said the main rule in photography is, remember, there are no rules. Shoot whatever you want. Who says you have to do this? Who says you have to do that? Try. Get rid of automatic. Put it on manual. Play with it. Find out that if you turn that dial and you take a picture, it don't come out. Find out why. That's the best way to learn. And it's brilliant now because it's not film anymore. You can still shoot film. Big respect to people who do still shoot film. But it's all digital. You can just wipe it away. Try it again. Move the dial another stop. Take the picture. See what happens. Notice how the picture changes as you play with the camera. Turn the dials one at a time. Find out what works. People used to say to me, you need to style. You need to find a style. Why? That's the 3-letter word I always used to ask him. Why? Why? Why do I have to do that? Why can't I shoot everything? If I'm a photographer, surely the picture I see and I want to take is the one I want to take. Now, fair enough, I do like black and white. Not a lot of things work in black and white, but the things that work for me in black and white are people and some landscape. I haven't done a lot of landscape. It's all people. So I need to venture out. I like infrared as well. I'm just getting into infrared. Never touched infrared before, and some of the pictures that I've seen online is fantastic. So I'm learning about that. I'm always learning. That's the beauty of photography and the majority of sports, hobbies, whatever. It's always learning from day one. You'll never know everything. Most of the time, at our age, you tend to forget more than you learn. So we're always learning. And the other valuable lesson he taught, ask yourself, ask others, why? If you want to go to college to study photography, by all means, crack on. But it wasn't for me. And after spending time with this photographer, he taught me more than any college could ever teach me. Get out and shoot, which I did. And I found my favourite camera. It's the ones I still use today. So that goes back to my mug. This is my favourite mug. It's my favourite mug for one or two reasons. The first reason, it feels right. It never lets me down. If I drop it, it don't break. Manky inside adds to the flavour. It used to be purple and now it's white. So I take it everywhere with us, and I always try and get a coffee in it wherever possible. It's my favourite mug, and like my camera, on my cameras, and like my cameras, I love it. It's great. I'd be lost without my mug. It's a shame, but hey ho. So what's next on the agenda for me? Well, I'm going to make a coffee in a minute. And then I'm starting to get it ready because this weekend, which is now Tuesday, on Sunday I go to Scotland to start the big adventure in the big van. It's fabulous. I think it's quite a common thread. The people I've spoken to, when they get a new van and they park it outside their house, they spend more time in the van than in the house. Funny. Just the black and white picture up at the end. And this picture that I'm going to put up was shot with my 50 quid camera. And the camera lens that I used was the 1442, which I believe was the kit lens on the Panasonic G1. And it is the original G1 at the GH1 or whatever they call them nowadays. But it's got a totally flip screen. Brilliant. And as I said, the images that come out of this camera are fantastic. So, don't be afraid in photography. Go and pick a camera up with a lens. Try it. Take some pictures. See how it feels. The dials on the top. Do they feel right? The lens that it's got on, does it fit your hand? Don't worry about the pixels. They're the least of your worries. But just be happy with the camera. This thing is built like a beast. It's as heavy as hell. But I love it. It's great. It's fantastic. It does everything I want and ask in my photography. And if this one can't do it, my Nikon D810 does. The programs on the D810, I will never use all of them. I'm very much a simple photographer. Black and white does me. As long as I capture the image that I see and then don't put it into post and overblow it with all this post-production like, then that's what I'm after. Photography in its basics form captures time and essence in a second. You're not spending weeks painting or drawing it. It's an instant reflection and a memory. And it no needs to go overboard. If you're happy with it, then use the image. What more can anybody ask? The whole thing about art is that it causes a debate. Now, if it causes a debate, then the artist has won. People want to talk about art, either positively or negatively, but it's created the debate. And in that instance, the artist has created a piece that will work. If there's no debate, then there's no argument for or against. All feedback, whether it be positive or negative, should be taken on board. The positives you need for your ego, of course, because anybody who says, "Oh, I love that, that's fantastic," is great. You think, right, that works, I'll carry on using that. The negativity, some of it you can just bin, because there'll always be people out there that just want to diss. That's unfortunately the country. But the others who don't and give that negative feedback that you can take on board and think, yeah, I see where they're coming from. I'll look at that and I'll do that next time. Then that makes you a better person, better photographer, better in anything that you want to do. But you need to get out and do it. Here's the picture.